It's okay if you think that we are living in the apocalypse, because we are. We are living in the apocalypse. It's May 30th, Saturday night in Portland, weekend of Pentecost Sunday, where we celebrate the birth of the church and the movement of the Holy Spirit that knows no boundaries, no language barriers, no race or nationalities. And this day, we look at 2020 square in the eye and we say, how long? How much more? This is an unprecedented week. I know it felt like last week was unprecedented, and the week before that was unprecedented, and 6 weeks before that was unprecedented, and they all have been. We are living in a thing that no one else has ever experienced. And for a lot of us, especially those of us that have never had to face a draft or persecution or oppression, we are like, what is this about? Why? And it's confusing too, because look, we can order anything we want on our phones. We can still get the food that we want on demand. We can still find creature comfort. We can still find all kinds of comforts. But we are living in an apocalypse. And look, I'm not talking about the Left Behind kind of apocalypse, right? I'm talking about the ancient wisdom that the first ones knew about. They talked about this apocalypse. They talked about this revelation. And that's all that apocalypsis in the ancient biblical Greek means. It just means unveiling. It just means revealing. A lot of us, 8 weeks ago, when this whole pandemic thing, the quarantine, the shelter in place thing, the stay at home and stay safe thing started, we kind of knew that this was about an unveiling of what actually was truly true and really real. And it feels like we've been talking about those themes for some time. We live in a world where people are literally trying to divide us, even tonight, with mistruths, weird numbers, shady math. We're living in an apocalypse. And it's okay if you're afraid, because I get a little afraid too. And then some days I'm like, not afraid and hopeful. And we have to find hope and joy where we can in these days, right? But look, this week of all weeks has been bad, real bad. We were already thinking about why more of our African American neighbors were dying at the hands of white cops, thinking about Ahmaud Arbery, thinking about Breonna Taylor. And then, of course, this week, George Floyd, Big Floyd in Minneapolis, murdered on the streets of Minneapolis, a city much like our own here in Portland, white, liberal, neighborly. Murdered on the streets, knee to the neck. Grotesque. Apocalyptic. We have unrest in our streets. We have a curfew here tonight. Chicago, dearly beloved city, part of my story, has unrest tonight. Cities all across this country have unrest. And there's also this weird thing that seems to be developing, that there are nefarious, what they call accelerationist, white supremacist groups infiltrating these protests and breaking windows and burning things and trying to start something even worse. Feels like we are in labor pains. There is no returning back to normal, right? Because normal for so many of us was not good to begin with, right? There is no returning to normal. There is only now. And so the question for us now is, how might we live in a world that is revealing itself to be a different world, that's calling us to dig deeper, to let go of certain things, to pace ourselves, to plan better? This Sunday is the Sunday of Pentecost in the Christian tradition. And it's a story that is very vivid to me in terms of what it means to have this deep, profound, real sense of inclusion. You can look it up in the book of Acts. It's chapter 2, first, I think, 21 verses. It talks about this story where the disciples have experienced this great trauma. They have experienced something profoundly traumatic in the loss of their friend, their brother, their teacher, their rabbi, this guy they call Jesus, Yeshua Bar Yosef, Nazareth. And he died at the hands of the state. On a cross, on a torture device, he had died. And some had seen him resurrected from the dead and some had not. And so there was all this confusion about, like, what is going on here, right? In the prequel to the book of Acts is the gospel according to Luke. And it talks about these sort of resurrection narratives and the earthiness of it and the revelatory humanity of it all, right? I'm not talking about fantasy stuff. I'm not talking about, preachers on corners, on soapboxes, handing out tracts and scaring the crap out of us. I'm talking about a real earthly sense of joy and love and good for all people. And the book of Acts, chapter 2, the story of Pentecost, continues that theme. It's a variation of the same theme that our friends and our forebears in the Jewish tradition and our friends in the Muslim tradition pick up too in their own books. We are thinking about what it means to be inclusive in a time of great division. And I love this story in Acts because it talks about this reality in which this wind, this rushing wind, this Holy Spirit, they called it, blows through the doors of the safe house where the disciples were holed up. These women and men, they had been holed up in this safe house. And it was during this great festival season in Jerusalem, and you had people from all walks of life coming to one place in Jerusalem. And just that idea of like all people coming together into one place is like breathtaking to me. Because I'd love to be in one public place with people without a mask, without hand sanitizer in my pockets, without worrying about maybe getting infected, but also worrying about me being, having it but not being sick and infecting somebody else. This idea of everybody coming together in one place from all walks of life is such a glorious invitation. In Acts 2, it talks about there were Parthians and Medes and people from Cappadocia and Egypt and Libya and Jordan and Judea and Cretans and Arabs, and everybody had come together in this rushing wind, this Holy Spirit, this moment that stood in time happened, and they could all understand one another and they could all see each other and they all felt as one. We need that, don't we? So this weekend of mourning, this weekend of protest, this weekend where we celebrate the literal birth of the church, I don't know about you, but for me, that's not about walls. That's not about creeds. That's not even about doctrines and dogmas. That's about a lived experience of the divine, of this force of love and light and joy and justice breaking through and saying, we are good and we have a role to play in helping for the common good. So I pray that is reborn in each of us, no matter our creed or our belief or our doubt or unbelief or our belief in different things. I pray for those values, those principles this night, this weekend, this season, this summer ahead, where it will be tough, friends. It will continue to be tough. We will be in tough days for some time. So we got to stick together, as we say in our family. Little Desmond says, stick together. We got to do it. We get to carry each other, however virtually or socially distanced we are, as we seek healing and change in this world. And for those of us white siblings and neighbors and friends, we have got to do a lot more listening to, right? We thought that this was all taken care of, but it wasn't. We got a lot of listening to do. And we got a lot of homework to do too. We can't rely on others to do our own work. So let us endeavor to do that as well as we can. Love and light and peace.